Alright, so this is the last video I'm doing covering this in the animation series, until episode 8. Mostly just some final questions that need to be answered. First will be some leftover stuff from previous episodes, and then we'll get to more prominent questions, overarching narrative questions. Anyway, let's begin already. I'm just going to be shifting the camera around for this episode. In episode 2, we get to see Tessa bring in Sin, where she originally got out of the garbage. Question is this actually Sin or the absolute solver? My guess, well, given the more fluid motions, I want to say, yeah. Now, is it confirmed? No. It's just my guess. Yes, and that's all I can say about episode 2. As these are final questions of the series. Now, episode 3, we see the absolute solver disguised as Tessa land on the planet. My question, why bring all the extra landing pods and stuff? I don't have an answer for this one. Just saying. Why? Episode 4, my bad. We see that Sin is stalking Camp 98.7, getting an assessment of the situation. That's what I think Sin was doing there. I only wrote this question because there's something I noticed. I heard one YouTuber mention that there's a chance that Sin, aka the absolute solver, could have placed the tape. Why? Well, at first it makes sense to me, but then I realized it could just be trying to erase their memories and get them back on track. Though that was more of a half-hearted thing. Episode 5, we have a question. What's up with the chained-up worker drone that was shown to man? What I mean with that is, it disappears halfway through the episode of the same scene. Although, I think we see it later on in Sin's basement. Don't quote me on that. Because I could be absolutely wrong here. I think it is, though, but I'm implying that the absolute solver shuffles things around. 5. How did M view the gal? As is heavily implied, he saw the gal, but somehow. Perhaps the absolute solver backed him up, or perhaps Tessa and Jay busted him out, being locked up outside and brought him back in. Now, if the soundtrack is anything to go off of, and was there at the gala and witnessed the whole thing? Now here's 2 questions I have no answer to. Episode 6, Uzi and the gang head into a facility of sorts, part of the Cabin Fever lab complex. I have no idea what the facility on top is supposed to be for them. Some kind of office and part of the labs. But yeah, I got nothing else. And episode 7. How did Mandy get a sample of the absolute solver's code? I have no clue, but there's a chance it could be the result of the absolute solver having a hand in this thing. Alright, there's one last theory, or minor thing I want to point out. How did Nori get into the basement in episode 7? As that's the only question I'm going to be covering of episode 7, as the rest, well, there's too much in the air. It seems likely Dory even remembered the place, as apparently after being damaged or core rebooting, she must have had all her scrambled memories restored. So she remembered the place and probably found a way in that she couldn't exit from, like a hole in the ceiling of the cavern. Through it, she got across, and that could be why she was exploring around, trying to find an exit herself that would get her out safely without running into sentinels, or as it turns out, Alice. Again, this is a guess. But now we get on to some of the actual overarching questions of the series. A few dates, perhaps. And of course, we gotta ask some big ones. First, I don't think I'm gonna need this whiteboard anymore. What is the absolute solver? Well, it's definitely implied to be the base AI of the worker drones having mutated, so we're told. Now, do I think that's correct? Well, that's question number 2. Where did the eldritch power come from? Now, my guess is the biological generating capabilities could definitely be mutation of the code, never intended to be created. The rest of it, though, no mention in the tape. In fact, there's no mention of the absolute solver in the first place, which is interesting, to put it lightly. Suspected corporate conspiracy? You see my previous video? If you've seen my previous video, my first video on the series, yes, I am saying there might be a corporate conspiracy, some kind of cover-up. No. Dang it. Alright, how does the absolute solver take control of people? Now, I've heard it said use is the reason that it can. I say I disagree. It seems to be more like a decline of mental health combined with, well, at least initially use. At most, initial use of the power, as we see in episode 4, the absolute solver attempts to take over Uzi's system, which results in the flesh creation and Jay freaking out. I don't think it has enough power to activate it on its own, instead relying on someone else to activate it, but it could just trigger something. Trigger a takeover. My point is, if this declining mental health, that leads to it gaining the control. I just said the same thing. Right. What's the absolute solver's end goal? Well, part of it is at least destruction of the universe, if not all of it. Because, well, if the note on the board is everything to go by, the absolute solver was trying to basically collapse all of the universe onto a single point, the Big Crunch, as it was theoretically called. All matter would eventually be pulled back in, form a single point, and the universe could potentially reform. Now, depending on what the absolute solver's true goal is, but given it's a power-hungry AI with a God complex, most likely it's taken a keen interest in this reformation of the universe, basically restarting and ruling a new universe. Now, how does the procedure of the absolute solver destroying plans go? Because, well, we see it. Given the information we know, we can only guess that first, this is something Joseph said in wipe out the resistance of a planet. Then the absolute solver in a primary vessel, most likely Sin, arrives and finishes wiping out the planet from the inside out. Now, are there more? Now, this is actually a good question for her. Why didn't, after NV and V go rogue, why didn't the absolute solver just send in a whole army of disassembly drones to wipe out Outpost 9? Does it need backup, or is it just confident at this point that it believes it can handle progressing to phase 2 of the plan early without fully completing phase 1? And if so, where does confidence come from? Well, perhaps the absolute solver is intelligent, and while this is a big gamble, possible the absolute solver could have found a way to preserve itself in case everything went wrong with its operation. Is it possible that the absolute solver backed itself up into a secondary vessel just in case it ever lost Sin? Maybe. could be why it's so confident in leaving her out in the open for once. And what is the true fate of Tessa Elliott? Because if the tape is correct, she wasn't killed immediately by the absent solver. Left alive for a bit before Earth's destruction, found by members of J.C. Jensen, and then the absent solver came back and killed her. But, well, truthfully, we don't actually know if she is truly dead. We just see the absent solver seemingly wearing her skin. I've heard it thrown around as potential clone, but I don't think that's entirely correct. She's probably dead or not entirely human anymore if she does end up returning. But this is just a minor video, get some opinions out there. And of course, episode 8, the finale, much will be revealed, just as much has been revealed in episode 7. Anyway, that's it for this series. I'll get off this murder drone tangent and back to regularly scheduled video game series. Bye.